It's the Brian Lehrer Show on WNYC. Good morning, everyone. Coming up later this hour, Queens and Nassau Congressman Tom Suozzi, who is declaring himself a Democratic capitalist as opposed to Democratic socialist in response to the election of Mayor Mamdani and last month's New York congressional primary results. As we continue to get numerous voices from various points in the Democratic Party on this spectrum, we'll see what he means today by Democratic capitalist and invite your calls and texts for him. Also today we're going to have a cardiologist to basically give you advice on how to prevent yourself from dying in the way that Lindsey Graham did. That's coming up. And we'll talk about the resurgence of waiting online. You know that in New York we say online, not in line, right? Waiting online, which is back as a thing in New York City. There's an article about that in The Cut, and we're going to talk to that reporter and take your calls on what you are waiting in line for, online for, that you're willing to spend that time to wait for in person these days. Suozzi coming up in about 15 minutes. We begin in New Jersey, where Governor Mikie Sherrill has been pushing to bring down some of the highest electric bills in the country. You remember it was her core campaign promise, and she made some fresh news on that last week. In her first 6 months, Governor Sherrill has signed a flurry of energy laws, and they include this July 7th trio of bills aimed at utilities and data centers paired with one-time bill credits. And just this week, the governor signed a nuclear procurement bill meant to add power supply over the long haul. Yes, the Democratic governor wants to give another look to nuclear power. The through line is affordability, of course, though it's believed the real payoff is mostly years away. That said, in the very near short term, every electric customer will receive a one-time $25 credit on their August bill. Michael Saul-Warren covers New Jersey energy and the environment for WNYC and Gothamist, where he's been tracking all of this. Hey, Michael, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me.
So let's tick through those three bills. One of them makes New Jersey utilities join a regional grid organization. What does that mean?
Yeah, the regional grid organization, it is the power grid. So in New York, that's the ISO. But in New Jersey, that is PJM, which is a large regional grid, serves about more than a dozen states, including all of New Jersey. So all of the four major electric utilities serving the Garden State are already members of PJM, but up until now, that membership was technically voluntary. This law is going to make it mandatory, and that has some financial implications, both for customers, but also for the utility companies.
But if I'm understanding you correctly, it just reinforces a status quo. Whatever benefits being a member of that regional grid confers were already in place?
Yes. The main thing that's going to change here under the law is that the incentive that utilities were being paid to be members is going to go away. Because now it's mandatory, so membership doesn't have to be incentivized. So that what that means for customers is that a fee that had been on their bill that was basically saying a little cut to the utilities for being members of this regional grid isn't going to be on the bill anymore.
Aha. All right. Next bill, the data center bill. It's one the business community fought. It's probably the one of the three they fought the hardest. Tell me if you think that's right. What does it actually require of data centers?
Yeah, it was definitely a talker. That's for sure. I think that the utilities might have fought the previous bill we were discussing about the membership incentives just as hard, if not harder. Mm-hmm. But the data center bill, what it does is it puts data centers in their own class when it comes to defining what ratepayers are. So most of us, pretty much all of us, are residential customers of our utility, of our electric company. If you are a business owner, you're commercial. If you are heavy industry, there's a class for you for industrial users. This creates a dedicated class for data centers. And that means that New Jersey electric companies are going to be able to charge them different rates than they would charge the average homeowner. And the goal here by state leaders is to ensure that data centers are going to be charged what they're calling their fair share. These are facilities that use way more electricity than residential users. So they want to be charged. They want to be charging them differently to account for that.
Right. And you reported that data centers are driving demand faster than new supply can come online. Is it known how much of New Jersey's recent utility bill spike traces back to the data center supply and demand mismatch?
I don't have a specific number to give you, but analysts agree that the proliferation of data centers in New Jersey and throughout the rest of the PJM footprint. Like I said, that's 13 states, and it includes parts of Virginia where data centers in around D.C. Have been coming online in droves. So the proliferation of data centers throughout the region is driving a supply and demand kind of crisis for PJM, and that's causing the base supply price, the money that utilities have to pay to get the power to send to us, to skyrocket. And so that gets translated to the rest of us in the form of our bill.
New Jersey listeners, do you have any question or reaction with respect to the steps that Governor Sherrill has taken so far since taking office on utility bills? The number one thing that she ran on, 212-433. WNYC, call or text for our New Jersey reporter, Michael Saul Warren, 212-433-9692. Before we leave data centers and go to the third bill, I don't know if you've seen the breaking news yet this morning from New York, but just reading from our site, Gothamist, Governor Hochul has ordered a one-year moratorium on large data centers in New York, which would be the first statewide temporary ban in the country. Hochul said her order pauses state environmental permits for 1 year in order to build a regulatory framework that protects the environment and ratepayers. So that's pretty big. The first statewide ban on large data centers in the country. Do you know if Governor Sherrill has considered that particular move for Jersey?
Yes. I don't know necessarily what she's considered or what she hasn't, but I know she has faced a lot of pressure to enact such a moratorium here. There's for months now have been calls from environmental advocates and generally opponents of data centers in the state for such a moratorium in New Jersey, and it's not just activists. There's a number of local municipalities that I've noticed passing resolutions urging the governor and lawmakers to take such a step as well.
But it sounds like she rejected that step that Hochul just took.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to say she's rejected it, but she definitely hasn't done it yet. So it may still be on the table. I don't know.
Rejected it for now.
Yeah.
The third of the three utility bill-oriented bills that she did sign last week is about transmission oversight. That means poles, wires, substations. What problem is the state trying to fix there?
So what they're targeting with this law specifically are what's called supplemental transmission projects, and utilities spend a lot of money on these kind of projects, and they are allowed to charge the ratepayer for that work. So a little increase in rates to cover these supplemental projects. The state's gripe here is that there was a kind of a gap in oversight and lack of ability for the Board of Public Utilities to give final approval on these supplemental projects. So this puts another layer of oversight and regulation on that kind of work, and it incentivizes utilities to use more advanced technologies. Like if the state's going to give approval to this supplemental work going forward, the state wants it to be done with the best available technology to kind of, keep things, not have to keep revisiting the same kind of work more frequently.
Right. So I guess even though that's a measure that it sounds like would authorize the spending of a lot of money, which could push rates up, tries to authorize that spending for, maintaining and modernizing the infrastructure in the most efficient way possible. Is that the way she wants us to look at it?
Yeah, basically, this is spending that's already happening, and it's spending that ratepayers are already being charged for. What the state is hoping this law does is give regulators more authority to step in and say, do we really need this particular project? Yes or no, right? And if we do need a fix here or a fix there, are we doing it in the best possible way, or could we bring in more modern technology?
These credits, a one-time $25 credit for ratepayers in New Jersey on their August bill, and low-income residents below whatever the cutoff for that is will also receive a separate $50 rebate on their August, September, and October bills through the state's residential energy assistance payment. Why these numbers? I had one Jersey friend say to me, $25, really? It's more insulting than changes anything.
Yeah, I think your feelings on the $25 may vary depending on where you sit on the income spectrum, right? I will compare this to what the state did last year, and remember the really big spike in energy bills we experienced was last summer. And so in reaction to that, former Governor Murphy gave a similar credit, but he did bigger credits over a longer period of time. So this is a sort of scaled back version for one more year. The $25 credit is kind of Governor Sherrill saying, look, this is us doing what we can in the short term to give you a little bit of relief while we enact these longer term efforts that will have larger impacts for you and your wallet down the line. That's the message they're trying to send here. The additional credits for low income households are definitely going to be more impactful. They are larger. They are 3 months instead of 1 month, and they're going to folks who could frankly use the money more than others.
On the bill that the governor signed that you were describing, that tries to get data centers to pay for more of the demand on the grid, I think John in Westfield has a question. John, you're on WNYC. Hello.
Yes, hi there. I just wanted to know kind of what the differential, on a kilowatt hour basis, the percentage that you'd see different between what I would get charged versus a data center, for instance.
Good concrete question. Is that known yet?
It's a great question, and I look forward to knowing it. We don't know now, so my understanding is that now that this framework exists that give the utilities an option to charge the data centers a different rate, the utilities are going to have to go through the rate setting process. So I think we're kind of at the start of that journey.
Listener texts, any consideration of a public utility option to increase competition with private utilities?
Oh, I had not heard that one. And I do want to say, I think that what they're talking about perhaps is like a government-owned public utility. I just want to be clear.
I think that's what the question is suggesting, yes.
Yeah, because the utilities we have are considered public utilities, and that they're corporations that are owned by public shareholders. But no, in terms of a government-owned electric company, I hadn't heard that one.
Listener writes, why doesn't Sherrill restart the offshore wind project that the federal government pulled funding out of before going to nuclear power? We'll talk about her proposal to reconsider nuclear for New Jersey, but the listener wants to know, before going to nuclear, why doesn't she restart the offshore wind project that we know Trump was so against?
Well, the answer is in the question. It's really about Trump. We asked Governor Sherrill about offshore wind on our air a while ago, and she said that she would like to get offshore wind going again, but it's just not feasible with the Trump administration in place. And that's because of specific policies that his administration have enacted that have created a de facto moratorium on new wind projects going through the approval process. Some of the stuff that you see in other states that is still moving forward are projects that had already gotten their approval at the federal level and still had the financial structure to make sense for those companies to move forward. But even they're facing pressure to get out of the game. I see a number of them have been offered buyouts by the Trump administration to kind of cut bait and invest in different projects.
And finally, of the four measures from the last 2 weeks, this week, yesterday, in fact, I see the governor sign the Power New Jersey Act to kick off procurement for new nuclear power. What does that law actually set in motion? And do you think the politics of the Democratic Party are changing with respect to nuclear power?
Two great questions, Brian. On the law itself, it basically just sets the groundwork for the state to move as quickly as possible through the process of getting a nuclear project up and running whenever the federal government is ready, basically. So most nuclear regulation still goes through federal authorities. Most of the funding for nuclear projects is still going to go through federal, or a lot of it is going to come from federal sources. And that's something that the Trump administration is trying to get off the ground in fits and starts. But in anticipation of this big federal push for new nuclear, New Jersey has laid the groundwork to be ready. And specifically, the state is planning on there being a fourth nuclear reactor built in Salem County. Down at far South Jersey, there's an artificial island where 3 nuclear plants already are. There would be a fourth one put there. The site is already pre-approved for such work. Earlier this year, state lawmakers and Governor Sherrill revamped the state's coastal land use rules to allow for nuclear. It lifted what had been a kind of default moratorium on nuclear development in the state. So everything that's been done so far, including the law signed yesterday, is just getting the state ready to go when the federal authorities are ready to go and when developers are ready to make a bid.
We'll end this with just an addendum from a listener to the person I cited on the $25 utility credit on New Jerseyans' August bills. The, kind of shrug of, really, $25? Listener writes, I'm a New Jersey, where'd it go? It writes, there it is. I'm a New Jersey resident with energy bills. Give me $25 any day, and I'm happy. So that listener gets the last word with Michael Solwarren, who covers New Jersey energy and the environment for WNYC and Gothamist. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
WNYC's journalism and storytelling is heard by millions of passionate listeners. Sponsors of our programming gain our listeners' attention and their respect. Learn about how your organization can support WNYC and WNYC Studios at sponsorship.wnyc.org.
The United States is about to mark its 250th anniversary.
And so, on the Global Story podcast from the BBC, we're telling surprising tales of American influence on the world stage and in ordinary people's lives all across the globe.
We have this ability to export our story, and a lot of people have bought it.
I feel like the American dream is alive but not well.
From the BBC, it's the United States at 250.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts or find us on YouTube.